Here are a few of the most entitled people walking around. Number 8. Virayuth Uvadhaya. Virayuth Uvadhaya, the heir to the Red Bull fortune, also paid his way out of a deadly traffic accident that took the life of a police officer. He didn't need to pay someone to go to jail because he just paid the victim's family, so he wouldn't have to go to court at all. Virayuth gave the siblings of the officer he killed in Bangkok $97,000. The Ferrari he crashed was worth about $1 million. The deal protected him from a civil lawsuit, which isn't that unusual in Thailand. The Thai police call this a funeral fee. If the victim's family is satisfied with the money, they won't take the person to court. You can basically just pay your way out of trouble if you can afford it. Virayuth Uvadhaya, who was 27 at the time, was initially charged with drunk driving, causing death by reckless driving, and escaping arrest. $97,000 isn't much to Uvadhaya family since they are worth $5.4 billion. Red Bull was first created in Thailand before an Austrian businessman decided to make a more westernized version to sell to the rest of the world. Number 7. Ethan Couch. The first time Ethan Couch ever showed up in the news was when he mortally injured 4 people in a drunken car crash in 2013. He only got 10 years of probation and no jail time, even though the prosecution wanted to send him to prison for 20 years. The case attracted a lot of outrage and attention when a psychologist testified that Couch was a victim of affluenza. What is affluenza, you ask? Affluenza is a made-up condition that the psychologist said resulted from being raised by super rich parents who never set any limits for him. So, essentially, the defense argued that Ethan was so rich he couldn't be held responsible for his actions and didn't know right from wrong. The worst part is, it actually worked. In 2020, Ethan popped back into the headlines when he was arrested in Texas for violating his probation. He tested positive for THC on a drug patch. THC, which is the stuff in weed that makes you high, is still illegal in Texas. Furthermore, his probation prohibited any recreational drug or alcohol use. This wasn't the first time Ethan had violated parole. In 2015, he violated the terms of his probation when he tried to run away to Mexico with his mom. That 10-year probation was just too much for him to handle, huh? He and his mom were caught and sent back to the United States. A Texas judge ordered him to serve a little less than 2 years of jail time. Maybe he should have tried to hire a body double. Number 6. Bernie Ecclestone. Bernie Ecclestone is extremely wealthy. About $3.3 billion wealthy. But he wasn't super famous and was only familiar to Formula One racing fans. However, he attracted media attention and criticism when he paid a German court $100 million to dismiss corruption charges. The charges could have resulted in a 10-year prison sentence. $100 million for 10 years is a pretty good deal when you're worth billions, if you ask us. The prosecutors in the case decided to accept Ecclestone's settlement offer for a few reasons. For starters, he was 84 years old at the time. They also weren't sure that they could get a conviction, even though Ecclestone admitted to paying millions to a German banker who had himself been successfully prosecuted and was in jail at the time. Ecclestone likes to pay settlements to stay out of jail, but he does not like to pay taxes. During the trial, it came out that he had been under investigation for tax evasion in the UK for 9 years. He avoided paying £1.2 billion worth of taxes through an elaborate evasion scheme. He ended up settling with a payment of just £10 million. Number 5. Justin Combs. Most people probably haven't heard of Justin Combs, but they have probably heard of his dad, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, whichever you prefer. Justin Combs was a defensive back for UCLA's football team and got a huge scholarship, but he didn't exactly get picked for his skill on the field. It turns out that he really only made it because of his dad. Former UCLA coach Rick Neuheisel said in an interview that it was unlikely that UCLA would have scouted Justin Combs if his dad wasn't Puff Daddy. He ended up playing in just one game. He was clearly on the team because of his connections. UCLA ended up getting a little bit too much access to Puff Daddy. Combs got into an argument that got him kicked out of the gym during team workouts. It was the first time he'd worked out with the team, as he opted for a private trainer courtesy of Daddy Diddy. Diddy found out about the fight and the boot from the gym and wasn't happy. He showed up on campus, assaulted a strength and conditioning coach, and swung a kettlebell at someone who tried to pull him away. The campus cops promptly arrested him. Puff Daddy could have gotten hit with felony charges, but that didn't end up happening. Could it be another example of entitled rich people getting away with too much? This incident is essentially the millionaire version of that dad who gets mad at the coach when his son doesn't get to play in Little League. Number 4. Anna Sorokin. Anna Sorokin felt entitled to the life of a wealthy heiress. Since she was not a wealthy heiress, she just pretended like she was, which got her into a lot of legal trouble. The media nicknamed her the Soho Scammer once they got wind of her story. While she grifted her way through high society, she went by Anna Delvey. She pretended to be a German heiress with a $67 million trust fund. Anna used this fun, fake identity to defraud the most elite people in Manhattan. She got access to the most exclusive parties, nightclubs, and hotels. But eventually, it caught up to her, and people figured out that there was no $67 million trust fund. Anna went to court for defrauding hotels, restaurants, banks, and even a private jet company out of around $275,000 during her 10-month life as a fake heiress. In 2019, Anna was convicted on 8 counts, including grand larceny and theft of services. She was sentenced to between 4 and 12 years in prison, fined $24,000, and was ordered to pay nearly $200,000 in restitution. The court didn't think that she was entitled to anything. Thanks to good behavior, she ended up serving a little under 4 years and got out early. In court, she tried to argue that she had always planned on paying back all the people to whom she owed money. Of course, that's what they all say, and nobody bought her excuse. However, a lot of people liked her story. There's a book about her life called My Friend Anna, and Netflix is currently working on a show detailing her wild exploits. Number 3. Hu Bin. In 2009, a rich 20-year-old named Hu Bin was drag racing through the streets of Hangzhou, China. Sadly, he hit a pedestrian who was crossing the street. His car was going so fast that his victim went flying 20 yards and didn't survive the accident. Reporters photographed Hu Bin and his rich friend smoking and laughing while waiting for the cops to show up. They clearly didn't care about what had happened and didn't think there would be real consequences. And they were right. Some believe there was probably a police cover-up of some kind. The cops originally tried to say that Hu was only going 43 miles per hour, which was not true. Then Hu got off with just a 3-year prison sentence. A very light sentence, considering that you can get the death penalty for severely hurting someone while drunk driving in China. But then things got even more ridiculous. Not only had Hu received a laughably low sentence, but he wouldn't even be serving that sentence himself. The man who appeared in court and went to jail wasn't Hu, but a body double he hired to do it for him. That's why Hu laughed at the scene of the crime. He knew he was going to get away with it. Hiring body doubles to do prison time for someone is well documented in China. China's elites sit at the top of a highly corrupt system, and it's incredible what they can get away with. That same year, a hospital president, who was also involved in a deadly traffic accident, paid one of his employees' fathers to serve his jail time for him. This is so common in China that they actually have a term for it, ding zui. Roughly translated, ding means substitute and zui means crime. Number 2. Lauren Elizabeth Cutshaw. Lawrence Elizabeth Cutshaw blew a stop sign going 60 miles per hour. She smelled like alcohol and her eyes were bloodshot when a police officer pulled her over in her 2011 Ford Fusion. What was her big plan to get out of the situation? She just told the cop, and we're not making this up, "I'm a very clean, thoroughbred white girl. I'm a white, clean girl." The cop asked her what this had to do with anything, and she followed it up with, "You're a cop. You should know what that means." It doesn't get much more entitled than that. Cutshaw also explained to the officer that she had been in a sorority and had gotten good grades. In her mind, this meant that she should be allowed to drive like a drunken maniac. Granted, she was drunk at the time, but still, a Latin phrase, in vino veratis, applies here very well. It means, in wine, there is truth. Alcohol has a tendency to bring out what people really think. Cutshaw, who was 34 at the time, pled guilty to a misdemeanor DUI. In exchange for her plea, several other charges against her were dropped, including speeding, possession of marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, and DUI with a blood alcohol content of 0.16 or higher. She was ordered by the court to pay a small fine of just $187. She also had to complete the state's alcohol safety program. Cutshaw could have been sent to jail for 3 to 9 years for this crime. Number 1. Jussie Smollett. In 2019, actor Jussie Smollett told the cops that he had been the victim of a racially motivated attack outside a Chicago apartment early that morning. The story was huge and made all the major headlines. Celebrities, politicians, and activist groups rallied behind him and offered support. But then, it turned out the whole thing was fake. Chicago police investigated the case but discovered that Smollett orchestrated the supposed attack. The actor paid two people he knew from the set of the show Empire to stage the incident. He was just doing it for the publicity he felt he deserved. Smollett paid them to pretend to punch him, pour bleach all over him, put a noose around his neck, and then shout racist slurs at him. Smollett was originally indicted on 16 counts of felony disorderly conduct, but the state's attorney's office suddenly dropped all the charges just a few weeks later. They said this was because he did community service, lost his $10,000 bond, and posed no danger to the community. He was found guilty on 5 felony counts of disorderly conduct for making a false police report. A disorderly conduct charge for making a false report is a Class 4 felony and can get you up to 3 years in prison, as well as a $25,000 fine. It's unlikely that Smollett will see any jail time. However, the city of Chicago does want their money back, the roughly $130,000 they spent investigating his fake police report. Click here to watch one of these next videos. And let us know in the comments section who you think is more dislikable than Jussie Smollett.